Hi everyone, welcome back to SMLFB, sharing my learnings from books. On today's episode, I am going to be sharing some insights from the very early pages of Eric Ries' powerful book, The Lean Startup. So let's jump right into it. Eric kicks off the book with a story of young friends who shared a common passion for technology and changing the world. They have ideas that excite them. They have energy and curiosity. They have capital, and they have the promise of a future where ideas like theirs could make millions. So they hire their friends, work around the clock, and take on the world with the thoughts of being unstoppable. You see, this story probably reminds you of a classic tech success story: Facebook, Uber, Google, Airbnb. But Eric Ries tells us that was his life. That was him. But it didn't end in celebration. It ended in heartbreak. As Eric tells it, he and his co-founder poured their hearts and souls into their vision. They dedicated a lot of time and energy to perfecting their product. But despite all their hard work, one night, everything changed. After burning through all their cash, they had a harsh realization: their company would run out of money before they could become profitable. It was then, as Eric and his co-founder argued in the pouring rain outside a cafe, that they decided to go their separate ways, literally and symbolically. Now, I think this is such a powerful story because I am sure a lot of people watching this video have either been part of a startup, thought of building one, or at least worked at one. We've seen these high highs and low lows, and yet when we think of startups, we usually focus on the high highs. We imagine the Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. But a lot of startups have failed even before they are recognized. These failed ones are more than the ones who survived and thrived. Many failed, lost everything. They put their hearts and souls into the venture only to watch it die. When reflecting on his early experiences, Eric says the truth is uncomfortable. Most startups fail not because they ran out of cash, not because their team was inexperienced, and not because they lack passion. Startups fail because they failed to learn how to build, failed to learn what the customer wants, failed to learn from the most important factor, the customer. In fact, in the early days of his startup, Eric and his team fell victim to this problem themselves. They believed that their customers wanted a full-featured software platform with advanced capabilities, and so they spent months in development creating this platform. Only they soon discovered that their assumptions were completely wrong. So what is the solution? How can you avoid this common pitfall? Well, according to Eric, the answer lies in a concept he calls validated learning. This is the idea that every action should teach you something about your business, and that you should use this knowledge to improve your product and your business. What's the best way to do this? Simple: build something small. Observe how people interact with it and learn from their behavior. For example, instead of waiting until they had a fully functional product, Eric and his team could have started with a basic website that showed a mock-up of their software. They could have asked potential customers to sign up and pay for access to the beta version. And then, once they had enough paying customers, they could have used their feedback to improve their product. This approach is what Eric now calls a minimum viable product, or MVP. By releasing an MVP, you can get feedback from real customers without having to wait until you've spent months or years in development. This allows you to validate your assumptions and make changes along the way. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, I get it, but how exactly do I use validated learning to improve my business? Well, that's where Eric's build, measure, learn loop comes in. According to this framework, the first thing you should do is build something, anything. You could start with an MVP, a landing page, a rough prototype, or a series of conversations with real people. The point is to get started and learn as much as possible. Once you build something, it's time to measure how people interact with it. Do they sign up? Do they engage? Do they provide feedback? Your goal here is to track as much data as possible. Remember, data is your friend. It helps you learn and make changes quickly. Finally, it's time to learn from the data you've collected. What did you learn about your customers? About their problems and needs? How can you use this knowledge to improve your product or your business? And then you repeat the cycle: build, measure, learn. This is how you turn ideas into impact. This is how you innovate at speed. You see, in today's world, it's no longer enough to simply come up with a great idea or build a cool product. You must be able to innovate continuously, learn from your mistakes, and adapt quickly. And that's exactly what the Lean Startup teaches you. So how does this framework apply to you? Well, whether you're working on a startup or just trying to make a positive impact in your field, remember that you don't need to wait for the perfect idea the perfect team, or perfect timing. What you need is a mindset that's willing to test, fail fast, and learn continuously. If you're starting with something new, consider what problem you're trying to solve and who you're trying to help. Can you identify a pain point or an area where people struggle? Are there existing solutions to this problem? And if so, how can you improve on them? By understanding the problem and the current solutions, you can develop a unique perspective that sets you apart. Next, ask yourself, what skills and resources do I have that will help me solve this problem? Do I have technical skills? Do I know people who can help me? Do I have access to funding or mentorship? Once you have a good understanding of your assets, you can develop a plan for turning your idea into a reality. Remember, you don't need to have everything figured out from day one. You just need to have a plan for figuring it out. As Eric Ries says, entrepreneurship is management. Starting and scaling a successful business requires planning, organizing, leading and controlling resources to achieve one or more objectives. Although the word entrepreneurship suggests risk and excitement, the day-to-day reality is often quite different. It's filled with mundane tasks and challenging problems that require patience and persistence. However, the rewards of entrepreneurship can be great. So if you're interested in entrepreneurship, I encourage you to read this book. You never know what you might accomplish. So if you're feeling stuck in your career or your business, I encourage you to check out this book. Thank you for watching this episode of SMLFB, sharing my learnings from books. If this episode helped you, please like, subscribe, and let me know your biggest lesson from today in the comments. Until next time, keep learning, keep building.